All right, I think this is going to be a really short video, but I wrote down this thing yesterday. I want to see if it triggers any thoughts for me. Uh, it's very simple. We learned how to read books, but not faces. And this makes me think of a number of different things. One of them was a performance that I saw from a kid one time who was singing a song about I think like an open mic, about his friend who had cancer. And it's, these kind of things can be touchy to talk about, but it was my interpretation that seemed pretty clear to me that the kid was getting a lot of satisfaction out of singing this song. When he was singing this song, to me, his expressions, his spirit, his emotional connection did not seem to be about the kid, his friend. It seemed to be about the likelihood that he was about to receive applause, because I think he had been conditioned by the fact that in the past, audiences that he performed this song for really liked him. And so he wasn't having an emotional connection to the sentiment. He was having an emotional connection to the reward. And I remember telling this to my dad one time, and he said to not judge, people. Essentially, I think the idea is not to not judge people based on what's in your head, which I think is a ridiculous notion because that's all we can ever do. But putting that aside, I think, yes, surely we can make mistakes in our judgments, and that's the game that we always play. Is in anything we do in life, we have to make decisions about what we believe to be true, and you can either act on those or you can withhold action and wait to see if your perspective, your beliefs, your evidence gets stronger. But as it pertains to this topic of we learned how to read books but not faces, I wanted to tie this into politics because I was watching the other day a speaker who he was giving a talk to, I believe, a congressional hearing or something to this effect. Can't fully remember, but the point is, it was a formal, professional environment where the decorum is supposed to be high. It's supposed to be toward the utmost. The character and decorum is supposed to be the pinnacle of our society. And when he gave his speech, it was very flippant. It was flippant. It was, just no respect for the environment that he was in. It was catty. And when I was watching it, I realized, though, that, he thinks this is going to succeed with flying colors. There's no fear in what he's doing. He understands that this behavior is going to succeed with his support base, and this is what people want. And I think that has become true, that a lot of what we see in the chambers of political offices, in political chambers, I guess we could say, are kinds of communication, kinds of energy that it's somewhat shocking that it's there. Because many people are fed up with the results that we're getting, because people aren't happy, whether correct or not. Because I think one thing I want to caution people against is that the idea that because they aren't getting the results that they wanted means that the representatives that they have are, you could take it too far. You can think that they're much worse than they are and not realize that the job is actually just really, really hard. if not impossible, because you're trying to bring together hundreds of millions of people and their different needs and wants and desires, and not to mention that those hundreds of millions of people are flawed beyond belief and excel beyond belief. You have the full spectrum. So you have the worst of the worst and the best of the best, and you're trying to bring all of it together into something cohesive. So many different perspectives, and then not to mention that communication is just flawed. Communication is imperfect because nobody has the exact same definitions of words. It's a made-up technology. These are all things that I feel like most people don't grasp, and we just expect perfect results. And then as a result, we're actually welcoming into our political chambers spirits that should never be there. I think things are getting worse, not better. We have these champions that are willing to speak truth to power. It doesn't seem like truth to power. It seems like petty, catty, low quality attempts at power grabbing. So I think I want to tie that back to we learned how to read books but not faces. Then maybe a lot of the reason that we're experiencing these particular problems that I'm expressing right here is that when we went to school, the schools educated us or indoctrinated us. They taught us how to do formulas, but they didn't teach us about spirit. And I guess that's the role of the church. But if you didn't go to church, which a lot of the mainstream did not go to church, or a lot of the mainstream rejected church, it doesn't change the fact that we are spiritual beings. It doesn't change the fact that our actions stem from, in my opinion, what spirit we let guide us. Whether you're religious or not, I have the 7 heavenly virtues and the 7 deadly sins written on these. What do you call them? I forget what the word is, but they're like artworks that I've created, and I have them posted up on the wall and on the door. And I have those 7 deadly sins and 7 heavenly virtues paired with their definitions. I don't know; these are the end-all, be-all definitions, but they're really good definitions. And I like doing this because I think most of the time when people think about the 7 deadly sins, it seems kind of distant. It seems ambiguous. It's like, okay, yeah, I shouldn't do those things. But how do those things actually show up in your life? And I think having definitions paired with it and trying to really understand what those things actually look like can really help you to better understand how you can be a better spiritual vehicle for good spirits in your life. Because I think that's ultimately we are what do we call it? Vessels. We are vessels. That is one aspect of religious diatribe, religious talk that I've held on to for a long time because I think it's very true. We are vessels. And it's not like we just make decisions out of thin air. It's like we're moved by different things. You feel things that swell up inside of you. And then you either act on those or you don't. That's the choice that you have to make. But we're moved by these emotions, by these spirits. And so when you feel a strong sexual desire towards somebody, then you're probably experiencing lust because lust is considering others the object of sexual desire. It's where the desire is so strong, or the emotion is the movement within yourself is so strong that you stop regarding the other person as a human, and you literally just want to act on your sexual desire, and you stop considering what's outside of that, and so that's lust. We could go one by one through these definitions of the different ones. I don't have them all memorized, and I should. And I also don't think that probably those are all encompassing. I don't think that there are probably just 7 and 7. It's arbitrary number. But again, the point is we want to be able to make decisions based on good, healthy spirits and not on the bad ones. And that's my point that I'm making with the political chambers. We learned how to read books, not faces. That people were not properly equipped to manage these spaces. It seems like the spirituality of, and I say that in the sense of the spirits that are being allowed to appear or dominate in the most important um, I'm going back to this word chambers, but I feel like there's a better word. The most important bodies of our society, like political bodies of our society or intellectual bodies of our society, the spirits that are being allowed to appear or dominate those spaces, those conversations, seem to be drastically deteriorating over time. And I think people are getting way too latched into this hope for rapid change that they're willing to allow. They're being ignorant to what is actually in front of their faces. They're being ignorant to what's actually speaking to them or what's actually speaking in these places. And instead they see such a visceral, apparent rebellion or aggression that's willing to try to make something happen. They're completely ignorant and losing sight of everything else that's being embodied. And so, yeah, I think that perhaps the best way I could have said that right then is that we need to be very aware of what spirits are being embodied by different people. And it's I don't know that it's something that we can know in entirety, but certainly we can know a lot better than we do. And it's not something that we're educated on. I think perhaps that's something that you used to get in the church, or that maybe people still do get in the church to some degree. But I grew up in the church, and I don't know that I was really educated in that way. I was taught different things. I was taught some very good principles, but I don't know that I was taught how to properly protect myself and ward against bad spirits and be aware of when they're in my presence. And so I feel like I was kind of thrown helplessly out into this spiritual world. There's the physical world and the spiritual world. And that's just not something that appears in our infrastructure for raising kids. Barely at all. And it's just something that I guess you just have to learn on your own. So I think that's probably a significant mistake in why we are reaping the consequences of not having properly prepared our children to be able to handle those things when it's their turn to do so.